Maggie, over to you. Oh, you're on speakerphone in my office, by the way, Adrian.
Okay.
Come on.
Hello, Mr. Piccoli. My name is Maggie Khan, and I'm a student at Mandersley Public School in Year 6, and I would just like to say to you, thank you so much for taking your time and letting me interview you. I really appreciate it, and it's just lovely of you.
No problem at all.
Okay.
I've been hearing what a great student you are, so it's always a pleasure to talk to great students.
So I would just like to say I've got around 12 questions for you,
Yep,
if that's all right.
yep.
So for my first question, what does your position as Minister for Education entail?
Look, that's a big question. Where do I start?
In 25 words or less, Adrian.
Well, I guess that my job is to I have the authority to make decisions about what happens in schools, not just in public schools, but in public, Catholic and independent schools. So people give me advice about what we should do, and my job is to make decisions. I guess I'm the final decision maker over a lot of those decisions that need to be made.
That's really interesting. So you're just basically in charge of education in New South Wales?
Yeah, more or less. More or less. The job involves lots of things. Actually, an important part is talking to principals and talking to teachers about, and parents and students actually, about what needs to change to help improve education. And then I guess we make decisions then around how to actually affect some of those changes.
Okay, thank you for that. So my second question is, after researching where we rank in the world as the best country for education, the answers varied. How important is it to you that New South Wales leads these world rankings?
Again, another really good question. Well, the ranking itself doesn't matter. What we are trying to achieve is the best possible education for students in New South Wales. Now, that may well mean the better we do, the higher up the ranking we go. But education is not just about maths and English. It's about music. It's about the arts. It's about making sure that young people develop into resilient, creative, thinking, constructive young people in our society. So it's always hard to rank that. So it's not the rankings that matter so much. It's making sure that students get a well-rounded education, as I say, not just English and maths, but all of those other things that actually make life interesting.
Okay. I'm lucky to come from a school that has a one-to-one laptop program. Do you agree with the use of modern technology, and if so, plan to bring it to all schools?
Well, look, technology is a really important way in which we learn and communicate. I've got two little kids, one's 6 and one's 3. They love technology and they're right into it. So it is an important part. But technology will never replace people, and we've got to make sure that people can still communicate with each other in writing and in spoken communication. So it's important, but it's not the most important thing in education. Where we can, I think every school tries as much as they can to provide as much technology in their schools as possible. So some schools are lucky and have one-to-one, others are working towards it.
So, do you have any plans to bring it to schools?
One-to-one?
Yes.
Well, I think the best way to answer that question is that individual schools are trying to, try to have as many iPads, laptops, other forms of technology going, now phones or iPods, that kind of stuff, into their schools. We don't make it. I, as the minister, don't make it compulsory that every school has to have one-for-one. But that's I think what most schools are trying to achieve.
Okay, thank you. That was a great answer.
Next one.
It's interesting that you have disagreed with Mr. Pine on certain things lately. And how do you reconcile that when you are both from the same political party?
Well, the whole point of the way democracy is supposed to work is that everybody gets to have their say, and they don't necessarily have to agree, even if they're from the same political party. Well, we're not. He's in the Liberal Party, I'm in the National Party. That's a technicality. But, no, I think democracy works the best when people say what they think, even if they are in the same political party. So I think it's healthy and, in a way, doesn't need to be reconciled. He has his views, I have my views, as do people from the Greens, as do people from the Labor Party, and democracy works best when everybody says what they think, and if somebody has a different opinion. The whole point of, a significant point of communication is trying to persuade people to your point of view, or for you to be persuaded to their point of view. And that's what debate is, particularly in politics.
Thank you. That answer was a very interesting one. There have been some cuts to TAFE funding. Do you feel that this is having a negative impact on people's education?
You're asking me some good questions here.
Adrian, might I say too, these are all Maggie's questions without any prompting. Truly, she's an incredibly politically astute young girl, and if you could see the people that she follows on Twitter, it would become abundantly clear.
Well, Maggie, the answer to that question is this. Everyone has a budget. Everyone's family has a budget, and when you've got to stick to a budget, you don't basically get to have everything that you would necessarily want. And it's no different in schools. The New South Wales government has a budget, and then every government department has a budget. Education has a budget, and then TAFE has a budget, and basically we have to operate within that budget. So, yeah, sometimes some of the things we do have to stop, and then we start doing other things. We stop doing some courses and we start doing other courses. Trying to think of an example. Probably 100 years ago, there would have been lots of courses or lots of training around making horseshoes. We don't do, or fixing. A better example would be even 30 years ago, there probably would have been a lot of courses available teaching people how to fix typewriters, and no courses about IT. Now, obviously, there are not many courses about fixing typewriters anymore, and lots of courses about doing IT. So, as the world changes, we change what we do in TAFE, and we change what we do in schools.
Okay. So, what benefit do you get from visiting public schools?
I get to find out what principals think. I visited Springwood High School this morning and met with 15 principals. And yesterday I was at Lithgow Public School and met with 15 teachers. And what I learn is I get to hear exactly what the people who work in schools think about what happens in schools. So I basically hear from the practitioners what's happening, because I often, as I said earlier, I have to make decisions based on the advice that I get. There might be a particular problem and I get advice about how people suggest we might fix it. But when I go to school and talk to a principal or a teacher, they tell me how that decision impacts actually in the school. And it's important to know, obviously, how things impact schools, because that's where, at the end of the day, what it's all about. And I ask students sometimes what impact various things have.
Okay, so maybe you'll have to come to my school sometime.
Yeah, maybe I will.
So this question has interested me because my family has experienced a lot of bullying. So there has been a lot in the media lately regarding bullying. Is it okay to ask, have you ever experienced bullying or seen it firsthand as a child?
Oh, I saw it. I certainly saw it when I was at school. I can't really say I was the victim of it. Not that I remember anyway, but I certainly saw it when I was at high school. Yeah, that wasn't very pleasant. And I've got to say, I saw it, students bullying students, and I saw teachers bullying students, actually.
Wow, so has this shaped the decisions you make about bullying? Yes, I guess so. Although I would say the problem is we see bullying. Bullying is not unique to schools. You can see it. You can see it. Unfortunately, you see it in the community. You listen to radio sometimes, and you'll hear it on the radio. You listen to talkback radio hosts, and you'll hear it on the radio. You listen, sometimes at weekend sport, and you'll see sometimes the behaviour of some of the parents, and it's bullying. And unfortunately, it happens in schools as well. Okay, thank you for that one. That was a very interesting answer.
Thank you.
So it was wonderful when your government signed up to 6 years of Gonski funding. What do you feel about the federal government only fund the first 4 years?
Well, I'm a little bit disappointed because I'm a lot disappointed. We did sign up for a 6-year agreement. And look, there was a change of government, and the new government's only committed to 4. But we're working on it, put it that way. We are trying to convince the federal government to consider and commit to 6 years. So we'll just have to see how we go.
So I get the feeling that Mr. Pine is trying to privatise our public schools. You publicly stated that you're against independent public schools.
Yep.
Why do you think that?
Well, look, I don't think Mr. Pine wants to privatise public schools, but he wants principals to have more decision making over what happens in a school. And to that extent, I agree with him, except that he would go further than we are going to go in New South Wales. So we both believe in kind of the same thing. The principals and the school community, teachers and parents, should have more decision making about what happens in a school, how the money is spent, etc. But he wants to go further, and I don't think we should go any further. That's the point of difference, and the reason is it's good for principals to have more decision-making power, but it's also good to be part of a system where schools work together. Schools have support from a system to help schools do what they do and do very well.
Okay. So, do you think that the federal government should remove HECS from universities?
No.
Yeah, why?
And why do you think this?
Because if they didn't have HECS, you would have to pay your university fees before you could go to university, and it would be very expensive. And a lot of people wouldn't be able to afford it if you had to pay your fees up front. HEX allows you to pay off your university fees once your income reaches a point, which reaches, I don't know what it is now, $50,000 or $60,000. You start paying it off once you start earning, a reasonable amount of money.
Okay, so now for my last question.
Yep.
From my understanding of politics, I am a Labour supporter. For long, kids like me will be voting. What would you say to change my mind and make me support the Liberal Party?
Well, what makes you think you're a Labor voter?
Well, I have some close friends that are in the Labour Party, and because I think they do some great things.
Like, explain.
No, I'm interested in your answer. Now, come on, I get to ask some questions too, don't I? No, I'm genuinely interested in the question. In your answer, I should say.
So, Maggie, what is it that you like about the Labor Party's decisions on different things?
Well, in my opinion, I think that they make decisions that give people more benefits.
Yep.
Can you give an example?
I can't really think of one at the top of my head.
Oh, that's all right. Well, you can have a think about it. But
so, what would you like to say to Maggie to turn her into a Liberal national voter, Adrian?
I've never had to convince a 12-year-old to vote for the Liberal Party or the National Party.
Yeah, you're talking to the future president of Australia, you know.
Right. Okay. Well, if I was convincing you if I was trying to convince you to vote for the National Party, I would say the National Party. The National Party represents electorates that are relatively disadvantaged, so have more people working on lower incomes, more trader type people, a bit like farmers, but tradesmen. And we do things, but also representing regional parts of New South Wales, where distance is a factor and people don't necessarily get the same access to services as people in Sydney would. So we try and implement policies that support people who come from disadvantaged backgrounds, that support people getting equal access to services. So financial help if you've got to travel long distances to get to health services or cancer treatment or whatever it might be, building hospitals in regional parts of New South Wales. So that would be the National Party perspective. From the Liberal Party's perspective, I mean, their ideology, the Liberal Party ideology is more around personal choice and personal freedoms, as opposed to the Labor Party's, which is more around, I would say more around a kind of a welfare type ideology. And the other thing is, unions have far too much influence and far too much say in what the Labor Party do. I feel a bit awkward being quite as political to a 12-year-old as that, but anyway.
You're doing very well, Adrian. All right, Maggie, did you want to wrap it up?
Okay, so thank you. Now my brain will be having a debate for the next couple of weeks.
All right, good, okay.
But that's fine.